States. Election results are in, and Donald Trump has been reelected as president of the United States. We are still waiting on results of some other congressional and local races, but here to break it all down for us, we have Dr. Melody Huckabee Rowlett. Thank you so much for coming on.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start with this. The presidential election, the former president won the election with 277 electoral votes, and that included 4 out of 7 swing states. Can you kind of explain to us what you think this says about the electorate right now?
Well, there's some interesting things going on in the electorate as a whole. For one thing, Donald Trump was able to really effectively target young men, and young men of all races, young men who were, as a matter of fact, older white men were less likely to vote for him than ever before. So part of that was he was, in the last several years, through his surrogates and through his own rallies and speeches, able to develop an idea of what manhood is. And that's incompatible with electing a female president. And so you really see a turnout shift in that way. For Latino men are going to break for Donald Trump by 10 points. And then you also have African-American men who are going to vote for Kamala Harris at the lowest rate that they've ever voted for a Democrat.
Let's continue to talk about voters here. What were the main issues that drove voters to the poll this year? How did that shape the results both at the national and the local levels?
Well, there are a couple of things. One, I think what's really interesting is the public perception of the economy. The economy is the strongest in the world. The Wall Street Journal, The Economist, 2 conservative publications have shown that in the world, the United States economy is the best there is. And not only that, it's been growing during the last 4 years. A lot of that was the Infrastructure Act that was put in place by the Biden administration, the CHIPS Act, all of those things bringing jobs, low unemployment, but that wasn't the perception. People thought that the economy was terrible. And whether that was just really great messaging by Donald Trump for the last 4 years, or whether the media wasn't covering what was actually happening in the economy, it's unclear. But people voted on the economy, and if they were choosing the economy as the issue, they voted for Donald Trump.
Let's move on to the vice president. We haven't heard from her just yet, but could you, from just your point of view, explain what happened with the Kamala Harris campaign last night?
Well, you know, one problem was turnout, okay? They did not get the turnout that they needed from the populations that they could count on. And it's unclear why. They worked really hard. They had a really good ground game. She ran a really good campaign, but she didn't get the turnout in those places. Now, there are issues, right? You know, we have bomb threats to precincts, right? They're called in by Russia, so that's an issue. And so that affects turnout. But, you know, overall, she was not getting the turnout in a lot of the counties where she needed turnout. And people were maybe staying home because they didn't like the Biden administration position on things like Palestine. And so they just stayed home. And that made a difference.
So switching from presidential election, because that's going to be something a lot of people are talking about today, but another topic is going to be the congressional races. So we have seen up until now that the Senate, Republicans have taken control of the Senate. The House, there are still some seats that are up for grabs right now. But how critical will those seats be for both Democrats and Republicans?
Well, having control of the Senate is really useful for President-elect Trump. Because with the Senate, that means that his nominations are going to go through really quickly. That means that the Supreme Court can be even more conservative than it currently is. And that means that in terms of foreign policy in particular, President Trump's going to be able to navigate foreign policy exactly the way that he wants to navigate foreign policy. And so having the Senate, that's what that means. In terms of the House, you know, the House is going to be interesting. You know, I am not sure actually how it's going to shake out, because these competitive districts are in districts where there are more college educated populations, and college educated voters broke really heavily for Harris. And so heavier than they ever have, both men and women. And so those districts with higher populations of college educated voters are those same swing districts in the House. And so we may end up with a really close but Democratic majority House.
All right, and I do want to come back to Oklahoma here. We were talking about judge retention. We know that 2 judges will return back to the bench. 1 judge will not. What is your reaction to that?
That's just unheard of. Right?
Explain a little bit more about
we
that.
We have never not retained a judge. The reason we have a judicial retention system is in case of scandal, like corruption, things like that. That's the whole purpose. But there were very strong interest groups that tried to actually unseat all 3 Supreme Court justices. And it was close. All of them were very, very close. Only one actually was not retained, Justice Cogar. She's 87. She has been on the Supreme Court the longest of any of the justices. But it is surprising that that it was that effective, that campaign was that effective. Judges, of course, cannot campaign.
Okay, Dr. Huckabee Rowlett, thank you so much for coming on, giving your insight to the election results, breaking it all down for us. We appreciate it. We want to get over to meteorologist Jonathan Condorfer, check out our forecast for